Episode 5, Regent. You know, that last episode, that left off kind of a sour note, you know? Sour in the terms of losing one of our favorite characters, you know? That was probably the best battle scene I've ever seen in Game of Thrones as a whole. That was probably my favorite. Alright, this tops Battle of the Bastards in my opinion. Alright, that was glorious. That was beautiful.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
This episode, we open to a shot of Driftmark. Corlys is obviously distraught by his loss. He's lost so much at this point. His children, and now his wife. His whole character was wrapped around leaving a legacy. Now, all of that has been completely ripped away from him. Corlys is an interesting character in this show. I really like him. He's a man with ambitions, but I think he's an example of somebody who, like, I do like the themes around A Song of Ice and Fire about how toxic ambition is, but I think you need to also realize that ambition isn't necessarily a bad thing in general, you know? Obviously, somebody can get completely corrupt by their ambitions, right? Corlys is somebody who isn't corrupt, in my opinion, as of right now in the story. It's not like a Littlefinger situation. He is not inherently evil by his actions. He's not trying to screw people over. He just wants a legacy. And by realizing too late, he lost his family by doing so. I think another example of somebody with ambitious goals but not being corrupted by them is Lionel Strong, the Strong family, you know, besides Loras. Loras is a fucker. But everyone else in that family has a good head on their shoulders. You know, they're ambitious. Lionel obviously wants to bring his family higher up in society, but he has his honor, you know, he still has his integrity, and that's what kind of got him killed by his son, you know? I think it's important to show two sides of ambition, because inherently ambition is not a bad thing. Ambition can get you very far in life. And I think a lot of the show, just because they want to dramatize it, they show ambition in a very poor light. Anyway, the blockade has caused food shortages in King's Landing. The Greens parade Maelys' head through the streets. This is Cole's idea, of course, that fucking idiot.
But why? Why would you do that?
Dragons and their riders are seen as gods among the small folk. Of course, if you only have one family who are able to ride dragons above these little peasants, these ants on the ground, of course they're gonna look up and view them as gods. But showcasing the head of a dragon through the streets, it shows the fact that they are just creatures and can be slain like anything else. This could definitely backfire on the Greens. These small folk are mighty, all right? There's a lot of them, all right? And when they rise up, they can cause havoc for their lords. Cole expected the small folk to praise the Greens for their victory, but their reaction is horror. Something that seemed almost like divinity itself, chopped up into pieces, being dragged through the streets, has caused distress among the crowds. They take it as an ill omen. Hugh Hammer himself mentions that dragons are just meat. Cole, you absolute dummy. King Aegon did, in fact, survive his fiery encounter with Aemond. He is in very poor condition, but is still breathing. This leaves Aemond in a peculiar position. We did see him ominously hovering over Aegon's body last episode, while holding Aegon's knife before Cole intervened. Now, Aemond definitely was thinking about killing the dude before Cole basically stopped him. Alright, now Aemond has his knife, the knife that Viserys' original knife. Aemond's looking a little sus. He mentions that somebody must rule in his stead. Alicent is suspicious of the situation, as she should be. All of these children are freaks. She goes to Cole and questions him, but this guy ain't no snitch. Sir Alfred has spoken out against Rhaenyra before finally having an outright argument, criticizing her ability to wage war simply by being a woman. She spats back that there has been peace during their lifetime. Nothing but peace. He hasn't seen any more conflict than she has. Daemon is doing classic Daemon shenanigans. He threatens the Brackens with his dragon, but the stubborn bastards just won't budge. And now Daemon doesn't really know what to do. You know, he was kind of shocked that the Brackens had the spine to just kind of puff their chest out towards a dragon. Willem Blackwood and his house has had a infamous feud with the Brackens for centuries. He urges Daemon to oblige their wish to meet with fire. But Daemon flew all the way over here to raise swords, not burnt corpses. Daemon asks Willem to go for more of a path of intrigue, a more subtle way of persuasion. You know, a little bit of a war crime here and there. He asks Willem to go stealthily. Do not fly the colors of any houses. I hope this doesn't backfire on the dude. The Eyrie, an underrated castle. It's a shame we don't see the Arryns very often. I always felt the Eyrie was so goddamn cool. You know, the idea of like these knights, especially with their whole heraldry. It's like a sparrow, right? It's like a bird. Very cool. It's like this castle up in the heavens in a way, you know? It's kind of badass, but we never really get to see them all that often. It's a real shame. We don't really know all that much about the Arryns themselves. I find this whole side of Westeros kind of lacking. You know, I think the coolest house in this side of Westeros is shit, I gotta look it up real fast. Hang on. Royce! House Royce, yes. I find House Royce to be very cool. Lady Rhaena has finally showed up at the Vale. Lady Arryn is indeed unhappy about not getting a dragon for protection. She's not a happy camper. We don't really get a whole lot more out of this. They have a little bit of dialogue, but there's nothing really all that happens, alright? Spoiler alert, okay? This whole plot line I kind of despise. I'll get into it later in later videos as we move on, but I personally kind of despise this plot line in this season.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
I'll get to it later, alright? Moving on. Daemon has a trippy sex dream. It wouldn't be Game of Thrones without incest. You know what I'm saying?
You're goddamn right.
He dreams of his mother. To be fair, most of the time, the incest is consensual, okay? Most of the time, the incest is between two lovers. This time, though, he is quite disgusted by the fact that he's having a dream about his mommy. And this is just another one of the creepy visions that the Witch Lady is putting into his noggin while he sleeps. That Witch Lady is still 100% messing with his noggin. He wakes up from the dream at the dinner table with the Strongs. The Witch Lady staring at him. Simon Strong dunks on Daemon as well. Again, not truly being the king, but simply being the consort. The Green Council discuss Aegon's condition, and the one who will rule in his place until he recovers. Alicent thinks it's only natural that she rules. Since she took that same role, Alicent thinks it's only natural that she rules. Since she took that same role when Viserys grew sick. But all the men around the table reject her. Almost laughingly so. And she's shocked. She's taken aback by this.
Impossible.
They rather Aemond in this position to rule in his brother's place. Alicent completely disconnects from the situation, disassociating from this whole table of men that she helped create. She was an active player here, and now she's been rejected by all these people, and she feels rejected. And you know, what did you expect, Alicent? This whole group of men rejected Rhaenyra's claim simply because she's a woman. Do you think you were gonna fucking rule? I don't think so, Alicent. I don't think so at all. And I think that fact, you know, is really starting to weigh in on her, because this whole thing was kind of a misunderstanding to begin with, and now that she's kind of been rejected by all these people, yeah, no, she's not feeling good. She's not feeling great. Alicent is not feeling good at all. I adore her character, honestly. Alicent is a much more sympathetic character in this situation. She obviously takes the place as Cersei in this story. Cersei is a cunt, though. Alicent is a much more sympathetic character. Alright, she actually believes, at least did believe, in her position in this story. And sure, you can say Cersei believed in her position, okay? But that's not the point I'm trying to make, okay? Cersei was an absolute crazy lunatic. Alright, Alicent's at least a proper lady of her time. Okay, Cersei was she was crazy, alright? She was loco.
Our baby boy's set to marry that smirking whore from Highgarden.
If you read her chapters in Feast for Crows, okay, you'd understand. Cersei is a nutcase. Hugh Hammer and his wife talk about what to do. I don't know why I said that so, I don't know why I had some oomph there. This is a very desperate situation that they're in, okay? The small folk are stealing food, and things are starting to get a little sketchy here. His daughter is still sick. His wife wants to go to Templeton, some town out there, you know, somewhere. I'm not that into the lore, my bad. It's somewhere out there. Hughes's pride won't have that, though. There's nothing for them in Templeton. They'd have to beg to survive. Hugh was supposed to be paid for Hughes's work. and that payment has never arrived. The king lied.
Why the fuck you lying?
You know what's most fucked up about that? Aegon probably just forgot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure if Aegon was reminded of the fact that, oh yeah, he was supposed to pay this guy, he'd actually pay him. You know? I think that's what's most fucked up about this whole thing. Aegon is just such a doofus that he probably just forgot to pay him. It wasn't really all that intentional, but that little shithead, that dummy, just completely forgot. It just shows that like people like Hugh simply aren't in Aegon's interest. Aegon wasn't intentionally trying to screw over the Smiths. He's just so wrapped up in his own little shenanigans and ill fit to be actually doing kingly duties that payment just never happened. And now, of course, Aegon is burnt toast. So good luck on that payment there, Hugh. Sorry, pal. Alicent confronts Cole for not siding with her during the council scene. She drops an absolute banger of a line.
Has your loyalty faded, or does it flourish only at night and flee the sunrise like a moth?
God damn. God damn, who wrote that line? Alright, they need a promotion.
Someone cooked here.
That line. What Cole saw at Rook's Rest made him realize that this is no longer a war between men, but a war between dragons. An army is completely useless when dragons are involved, so why shouldn't a man with a dragon be leading this cause? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And honestly, when Cole puts it like that, and if war is inevitable, that kind of makes sense, you know? Though, I think if Otto was in charge here, all I'm saying, okay, I would side with Cole if Otto was here. Otto and Aemond, I agree, would be a dangerous combo. Otto and Aemond, okay? Those two would be dangerous. But just Aemond, he's being a little crazy, all right? He's a little bit of a nutcase by himself. A distraught Corlys overlooks the sea. He's completely destroyed. I'm sure he's regretting a lot of his choices. Baela joins him, and they talk of Rhaenys. Everything that Corlys built was for her. I gotta check something. Didn't Corlys name his ship after her? Yeah, he did. Okay, that's a badass ship name. That is like some Blackbeard type shit right there, dude. The Queen Who Never Was. He even ends up renaming his ship The Queen Who Never Was after his late wife, Rhaenys. All of his trinkets from his adventures were all for her. I think that also gives credit when credit is due. Corlys was a solid man, alright? He may be a bit of a, what they call a boomer these days, but Corlys was a solid dude. He was an ambitious man. I'll give him credit for that. Baela gives news that Rhaenyra wishes to name Corlys her hand, and he puts blame on Rhaenyra, you know? He blames Rhaenyra for most of his family's misfortune. He is also desperate for an heir at this point, and he tries Baela, but she refuses. She's no sailor. She's a Targaryen. She's fire and blood, baby. Daemon, doing Daemon things, continues to have a trippy time at Harrenhal. The River Lords come and pay him a visit. They are quite angry. There's been complications with bringing in House Bracken. Yes, they have bent the knee. However, Willem Blackwood was not subtle with it at all, despite Daemon's clear wording. He proudly wore the colors of House Targaryen while they target the women and the children. And these River Lords demand justice for William's crimes. That's basically the episode. There's a scene where Rhaenyra talks with Jace. He went up with the phrase for passage for the men that the Starks are sending. Rhaenyra is going through the old lineages of Targaryens, trying to find people who may have dragon blood. She's trying to find potential riders for the dragons who have dragon blood. That's basically it. Decent episode, nothing crazy, but the plot is slowly moving forward. On to the next episode.